We've got a lot of new Starfield info and gameplay details to go over, starting with some of our latest info. This comes from an interview on Bethesda's website with the producer of Starfield, who also worked on Doom, Doom Eternal, and Wolfenstein: The New Order. But you probably know her more as the lady that hoards all of those sandwiches on her ship. She said, "The level of team collaboration on that project," talking about Starfield by the way, "was off the charts, especially when it came to Shipbuilder. We had an amazing team with some developers who worked on the incredible snap maps in Doom 2016, and we've got this massive list of exciting features we're looking forward to discussing and potentially implementing in the future. But I can't spill all of the details here. Just thinking about the possibilities gets my dopamine pumping. It also sounds like fighting in your ship could leave you to potentially lose the loot that you have inside of it. As she said, I like to keep my sandwiches or other stolen bounty close at hand on my ship. It adds a slight element of risk during those thrilling dogfights." And mentioned that she should probably store her things back at her outpost instead. So there's a good chance that dying or losing your ship during some of those space combat battles could lead you to potentially lose all or some of your contraband. Maybe that means your ship will end up being impounded or able to be repaired or temporarily lost altogether, but it sounds like that could have some potentially big consequences where you're going to want to return to an outpost or wherever you've made your actual home to bring your contraband there instead of hoarding it all on your ship in between some of those space trips. We already know that entering some of those planets, most likely only the ones with larger settlements and police, will scan your ship before they allow you to enter. So she could possibly just be referring to some sort of space police combat going on, like maybe instead of just taking your loot, they will come attempt to take it or will board your ship and confiscate it once your ship has taken enough damage in combat. Whether that be police or anybody else you're fighting in space, we don't really know. It seems like bounties also take some form of role in the game, so it could be as simple as becoming more wanted after space pirating long enough and taking out enough ships to where the police come and take your stuff or come take you out. She also mentioned factions and faction storylines. If you remember playing just about any Bethesda game, you already sort of know what's going on here. They had these with Fallout 4, New Vegas, Skyrim, where the surrounding factions in the world had their own storylines and problems going on, and depending on who you help or don't help, you could not only change that faction story, but the main story as well. Usually this at least changed something with the ending of the game and how it played out. These factions generally have a gray area of what's right and wrong, just depending on your interpretation and how you're playing. The Minutemen in Fallout 4, for example, they're a pretty nice group of people that don't really do anything wrong and form your first and main community back at your home. Or you can see Preston Garvey and his group as some form of needy individuals that want to selfishly use you and the safety of your outpost while you do everything for them for their own benefit, because despite the 100 settlement quests that you do for him, he'll forever hate you for making one wrong choice that goes against his personal morals. Well, very similar stuff here, possibly even more advanced with Starfield, where it sounds like a lot more choices can make your other companions angry and cut off complete storylines with them, where those storylines sound even more detailed than past games. She gave us even more details on the factions and their storylines here, where she said, "Lately I've been diving deep into the quest lines of all the different factions, and I've been pleasantly surprised by the incredible amount of variety in their storylines. It's like unlocking a treasure trove of captivating narratives that many folks might not even realize exist. While some may rush through the main Golden Path storyline, those intrepid explorers who venture off the beaten path and delve into the faction quests are in for a real treat. The amount of content packed into these faction storylines is truly astonishing. It's like embarking on a grand adventure within an adventure where every choice you make and every interaction you have shapes the course of the tale. The character development, the plot twists, the moral dilemmas, I have been completely hooked. These quests offer a chance to delve deeper into the game's rich lore and uncover hidden gems that add layers of depth and excitement to the overall experience." So it sounds like we're going to have similar dilemmas to past games, where going with one faction could eventually cut off some or all of the other factions from being able to further progress, and that these faction storylines and side quests are going to be pretty detailed. Another thing that's already pretty reminiscent of Bethesda's other games. These factions were also sort of hinted at in the Starfield animated trailers that released just a few days ago that basically went into multiple characters' lives and showed where you could really be taken into this game and that there isn't just one road that you go down to play. Just like every other Bethesda open world RPG, you'll have a lot of possible routes to go and will most likely want to play through Starfield multiple times. She also went on to say that the terminals added another layer of depth to the game, usually giving players more insight into the story and lore for the area that they are currently in. The mission board also kept us all on our toes, ensuring players had exciting challenges to tackle while exploring the cosmos. So yeah, we should have a lot of side quests and very similar terminals like we had in Fallout games that gave us an absolute ton of lore and background on things that you wouldn't have even known about without reading these terminals. With all of that being said, this lady is selling the game. She isn't giving away exact details on just how much bigger this stuff is than previous games. She's basically just saying how much she loves it, which she's the producer for Starfield. She's not going to exactly come out and say, yeah, this game sucks. It was actually put out not very long ago that Bethesda is very strict with being able to talk about Starfield, and that Todd Howard was the only one able to give out any details revolving around it, so you know they were probably really careful with everything she said here. So just keep that in mind. There's been a bit of drama regarding the PC requirements for Starfield, as it doesn't just require a decent PC to run it, but also requires an SSD rather than being able to have a standard hard drive. Most games these days sort of recommend an SSD, mostly for faster load times, but with the amount of data that's being sent across modern games, it's starting to become a requirement. I've seen articles going around saying that Starfield is the first game to do this, but it is definitely not, and I'm just glad the news is going around prior to release. When the Dead Space remake came out, I was really surprised that once I fully loaded it up, I was given the message that I would need an SSD and that the game would need to be installed on that SSD, otherwise I would experience issues. Like, yeah, thanks for telling me that now after I've already bought the game, installed it, and pretty much prepared to play it. I had an SSD already for Windows, but it just wasn't big enough to hold the game. I said screw it, played it anyways, and the game was actually unplayable. Items that you needed to progress just wouldn't spawn in, like this happened in the final chapter of the game as well, where you needed some batteries for the final puzzle, and they just wouldn't spawn in no matter what I did. Luckily, I had another SSD that I had procrastinated installing, so I deleted the game, installed the new SSD, reinstalled Dead Space, and boom, the batteries loaded in the first try. This happened other times throughout the game where I thought I was lost or doing something wrong, but instead I just had giant bugs going on where things I needed weren't spawning or doors wouldn't open. An SSD instantly fixed that. I ran through the game multiple other times, zero problems, where prior to the SSD, I had a bug every 10 minutes it felt like. So yeah, the whole point of all that, if you travel over to the system requirements for Starfield on Steam, you'll notice it says SSD required. The game might let you play without it, but you'll most likely experience a ton of unplayable bugs. I had that many with Dead Space, which is a much smaller scaled game. Not only that, but I would imagine a lot of the loading between planets and anything else during your gameplay are going to take a lot longer. It sucks, but I would definitely recommend getting an SSD before Starfield releases, at least big enough to hold Starfield, which is 125 gigabytes. The other requirements, as you can see, aren't anything too crazy, kind of what I would expect out of a game this big, but also if your PC is barely getting by and you've got a few generations old graphics card, it might be time to upgrade before you can play it. Obviously, the only way to tell if your PC will run it now is to play the game though. Starfield has also been confirmed to be a play anywhere game featuring cross-play and cross-save support, meaning that if you purchase it digitally through Xbox or the Microsoft Store, which is really the Xbox app on your PC now, you'll be able to save on one and continue playing on the other. So if you've started playing on Xbox, you can save, load up the game on the Xbox app on your PC, and you should be able to continue where you left off. However, this is probably not going to work on Steam. So if you pre-order on there and you have an Xbox, you want to switch between them, you are probably not going to be able to do that. I mean, I really like the fact how in Cyberpunk 2077 they have cross-save support, and I play that game through Steam, so it's not totally off the table, but Cyberpunk's cross-save system isn't directly through Xbox, so we don't really know. But it is a pretty cool feature if you've got a PC and a Xbox, especially if you are using Game Pass Ultimate, so you can easily switch between both without having to start a new game. On top of all that, I might mention this in every video because it seems like a lot of people don't realize you can do it, but as far as Bethesda themselves have said on their support page, you can play Starfield through the Game Pass and then purchase the Premium Edition upgrade. This page is the only place I've read this information to be totally confirmed, but it is on Bethesda's support page, and I think that's the most accurate source we can have unless Xbox themselves posts it. So if you want to save $50 and not get the $100 bundle for early access to play on September 1st, Game Pass with a premium upgrade is probably the cheapest option. If you did decide to go ahead and pre-order and you did it on Steam, you'll also see that there are a total of 50 achievements to unlock. We don't really know what those achievements are, but so far it looks like there's 50. If you didn't see yet, there's also a Starfield fan somewhere out there, or a few of them, that have constructed this giant 3D map based on the little glimpses of gameplay we've been shown. of Starfield's galaxies and map, showing that yeah, the map itself is gigantic. This navigation map isn't just used to see how big the map is though. They have actually already implemented this map to let you plan your course depending on what system and what planet you're wanting to travel to. How accurate this map is to the actual game, who knows, but it definitely took a ton of time to work on this, and I imagine if it is inaccurate at all, I'm sure it'll be ironed out by the full release, so you can check it out for yourself if you want. Bethesda and Xbox are both going to be attending Gamescom, with what Xbox has stated to be their biggest booth ever. We already know that the recent Xbox Game Showcase was their most watched showcase ever, apparently bringing in over 92 million viewers, largely due to the presence of the Starfield Direct, where we got that massive gameplay reveal. So with Gamescom taking place from August 22nd to the 27th, and Starfield's early access beginning on September 1st, we will very likely see something from Starfield. I'd be surprised if it wasn't some more gameplay, most likely during the opening night live that takes place on August 21st. Of course, that part is speculation, but with Xbox having a giant booth there, along with Bethesda being there just a few days before the release of Starfield, there's got to be something planned. It isn't confirmed that we will be able to play Starfield at Gamescom or if Starfield will even be there at all, but I would be crazy surprised if they weren't doing anything with what is their biggest game release in a long time. Gamescom's 2023 opening night live will premiere on August 22nd around 8 p.m. Central Time, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. I will very likely be attending Gamescom, so if there is anything going on with Starfield there, or any other big games that might show something like maybe Fable, or any other big games that Xbox is working on like Indiana Jones, State of Decay 3, all of that, I'll be covering it, so feel free to stick around. But that is pretty much it. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Starfield videos.